Hi, my name is Tim. Welcome to my channel that's built around flooring and carpentry. I don't claim to know everything, but between what I know and you know, our goal is to give everybody the confidence and skills to be able to build anything. So engage in the videos, leave comments, subscribe if you already haven't, and join the community. Today, I'm going to show you how I do baseboards. So without any further ado, let's hit it.
So beautiful, you and me, we meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free.
If you're new to the channel or you haven't checked out what we have going on lately, we're on a big installation here where we've done some amazing high-end wood flooring. It's a high-end floor without that high-end price. That's the floor here that we're talking about here. And then in this job we just did a really awesome video about this flooring that we put in the laundry area here. An in-depth video where I teach one of my guys how to install vinyl for the first time. I definitely suggest checking it out if you want to learn how to do vinyl. But now we're going to do the baseboards in this room. And today's profile that we're going to be doing is a 5180. That's the 5 1/4 inch with the one curve and the ridge at the top. So what I like to do when I'm doing baseboards, I like to take the measurements of the area and I like to draw a picture of what I'm doing. So it doesn't need to be detailed, just basic. You see, right, we've just drawn it out here. In case you're wondering what I'm writing on, it's the back of a piece of flooring. Actually, it's the front of a piece of unfinished flooring. But I often find myself writing on scrap pieces of flooring versus paper because when you go outside to use the saw, they don't blow away. I have all my measurements. I'm not having to constantly go back in and out of the house. I can make all my cuts at once, bring them in, check them, and then if I need to make any recuts, just trim the boards. So our baseboards are 8 feet in length, and this one is going to be bigger than 8 feet. We don't want to put our seam in an obvious place, so we have the perfect opportunity here to put our seam behind the door on the right side of the room when we come in. And then, of course, on the other side we have washer and dryers, so that's not really going to be much of an issue. So obviously when we measure for base, we're measuring from wall to wall. It sounds simple, but don't worry about where the miters might start or end. The longest part of the board is what we are concerned with. So here's the tape measure, 24.5 with a plus sign. So one of the tricks that I do when I'm doing baseboards is when I write it down, I write my measurement. And I like to leave plus or minus signs. Now I know with the plus sign, that means I want it to be slightly more. And with the minus, obviously, it's going to be slightly less than that measurement. Now, my trick with that is, and someone taught me this a long time ago, when you're doing any kind of trim, always leave it a blade long. And leaving it just a little long gives us that opportunity to recut it if we need to, but also to have those tight corners. There's two ways a chop saw will cut. Standing up, which is where you would rotate it from side to side, or laying down. Now I'm using Kobalt slide. Chop saw means it slides side to side, and it also bevels in both directions. It'll lay this way, it'll also lay the opposite way that way. So it's important to know what kind of miter saw you have and what the range of motion that your saw will do. This is where it gets a little tricky sometimes on where to cut it on the chop saw. This is where most people make their mistake. Figuring out where the blade needs to pass through. Now you see our mark there? Okay, when that blade hits this baseboard, it's not going to hit at that mark. That's the longest point of the board right there. So what we need to do here is our longest point of the board needs to be the center of our miter saw, which this is the groove for the blade to pass through. We want this center of that opening there. Now, when that blade passes through, it's actually going to start hitting back here, but it will end right here. Now, if you want that to be longer and you're not sure about your mark, then put it a little to the other side, and it'll it'll cut a little bit longer. So that is how we do that one. You just see that by centering that mark in the cutting area, do you see where it ended up? Right there. And that's our board. Now, when you're doing baseboards, one of the most important pieces of advice I can give you is to always do your bigger pieces first. Use the fall-off pieces to make my smaller pieces with. Does that make any sense? I hope it does. It'll save on waste big time. So the first end of the board I cut is going to be the one that is the furthest point in the laundry room, opposite of the door side of the wall. And we are going to go with a 45-degree angle, and guess what? We're going to need to change the miter on our saw right away. There we go, look at that. So now laying our baseboard flat, we have the other end propped up on something over there. We're just going to cut that end off, slicing into it on a 45-degree angle. I'm able to start at the furthest point and push it through. That's the part that came off. Look at that, that's a 45-degree angle. And that is the opposite side. And then when we do a seam, we'll have a piece like this that will just connect like that, and that's what our seam should look like, which a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people would go with a butt joint here, which, as you can see, a butt joint, you can see just by looking, is not nearly as nice. So it's nice to miter it, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to put an angle on this side of the board because this is where we're going to connect the other piece to it on this end. So really simple. We're just going to do the same exact thing that we did on that end, but we'll just flip our baseboard around.
Now let's go in and I'll show you a really easy way to make that seam come out perfect.
Getting back to what I was saying, we're going to put our seam behind where the door closes so that when you walk in you see a solid piece of base there. Oh, we just want to push that all the way down there. So one of the things I like to do, if we're not sure on a two-piece wall and they're small pieces, I'll take a piece, we put our 45 on, we line it up there in our end piece, and then we let it hit. This one's nailed in, and that's the last one on the 45. Now this one is going to be the opposite outside. I call it an outside corner, an outside 45. And all I do is I take my base, it's in place now, and I put a mark. You see my mark? That's marking the longest piece of that baseboard. That's the longest part of our last baseboard that we installed. Now we just go out to the saw and we center that mark. We center that mark in the middle of the cutting area and let the saw do the rest of the work. So again, we center the mark in the middle of the cutting area here. That's our mark in the middle. We have our saw set on a 45. Now, see, this is already cut on 45, but we need the opposite 45. We're cut this way. We're going to go this way and cut into it. So we're doing what I like to call an outside 45 on this piece here. And now we'll let the saw do the work. That ended in the center of the cutting area, but our actual cut started way out here. The center of your cutting area determines where the blade is going to end. So now let's bring it in. This thing's ready to go.
It looks good, but before we install it, we're going to use a piece of sandpaper to clean it up and sand off that excess paint and rough edge. So let's do one more piece and then we'll show you how to nail it in.
Let us now make our entry board to the laundry room. It's 24.5.
And we've already cut one end of this board on an inside 45. Now we're going to hook the end of the tape measure onto the 45 and then mark it at 24.5. This is where we'll do a straight cut and it'll be ready to be nailed in.
I don't know if you can see it, but we still have some of the line left on it. I'm not a drinker, but tell my guys, I want to see a hint of line. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Perfectly tight. That's where those plus and minus signs come in so nicely. And now, only thing left is to nail. Today we're going to be using our stapler on baseboards. I prefer to use, especially bigger, taller baseboards, I prefer to use a stapler over a nailer because it just grabs better. We are using a Dewalt 20 volt 18 gauge stapler. And we don't need to go crazy. We joke around and call it hurricane proofing. We don't need to hurricane proof it, it's just base. They're going to be caulked, and believe it or not, the caulking holds it in as good as the nails once it dries, so you don't need a ton of nails or staples in your baseboards. What I'll do sometimes, if I have a client that's overly worried about nail holes, is I'll put it in the groove. By nailing it in one of the grooves, it hides it. Especially if you shoot it up and under that, you really don't see it. Now, that's all there is to it. This is your miter joint versus a butt joint. Miter joints are the way to go. They do need to be caulked and painted though to really finish it off, but you see how nice and tight that seam is. Here's those nice 5180 baseboards. They were pre-painted. They've been caulked. Should they get another coat of paint? Probably, but they look good. As you see, we put it throughout. Nice mitered corners. And that is my way of doing baseboards. I simplify it, try to make it easy. I take notes and have little hints on there of a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, because when you're out at the saw and you have multiple measurements, you will forget. That's why the plus and minus signs come in handy. If you know me, you know I hate caulking, but guess what? I have an amazing how to caulk video by one of my guys who is a master caulker. Probably one of the most popular videos on my channel, go figure. Person that hates caulking has one of the most popular caulking videos out there, so go check it out. I'll put the link below. We need your help though to support our channel. We don't get promoted enough by YouTube, so please like, share, and subscribe if you already haven't, and turn those notifications on. It helps more than you realize. Engage in the videos. Any kind of engagement, whether it's a comment, a liking, sharing, anything like that, helps us to get recognized by the YouTube algorithm. Also, we have a PayPal link below. We're trying to get some better camera and audio equipment to make these videos even better. Check it out. It's also down there, as well as all the links to the different tools and stuff that we use in these videos. They're in all of our videos. We have links in the description, so check them out. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to check out all of our other content. We have lots of great videos on how to install wood, laminate, and vinyl floors, plus my favorite product reviews. I review wood, laminate, and vinyl, and I even put them head to head. I run them over, dunk them, I smurge them, I do whatever it takes to find out which of these floors are best for you. If you haven't subscribed yet, I want you to take out your favorite flooring mallet, smash that subscribe button so you don't miss any future content. And thanks for watching.